Welcome back to the Voicebox. This is Season 3, Episode 7. This episode is actually an unscripted and pretty funny discussion I had about history with Sumukh and Skand, both seniors and both Zealous History Bowl members. We're going to talk about many different interesting and funny historical people or historical events that are not particularly famous. So get ready to learn about quite a few funny things that have happened in history that not a lot of people know about. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, I'm Jay Fadak, and welcome to another exciting episode of The Voice, where we're going to use our voices to talk about history. Today I have two guests, me and Sumukh.
Just kidding. That's
you're Jay
Scott. Yep, exactly. That's Skand, our guest for today. I'm Jay. I'm broadcast editor for The Voice. Skand, however, is not in The Voice. He's actually our
I'm
guest
the
today.
nothing editor. Is the way you can
he is
think about it.
impersonating a voice member, therefore he should be prosecuted and imprisoned. But we'll
let
let that slide in exchange for his knowledge of history. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, of course.
For
so
sure.
yeah, I'm Sumukh. I'm also the web editor for The Voice, and I'm a History Bowl member as well. So yes, I know history.
I do too.
Yeah, we do.
I'm also a History Bowl member.
Yeah.
I think
We've gotten 11th place in History Bowl Nationals. It's a pretty.
I
big
also
stuff.
got second place in Global B, which was pretty epic.
That is pretty epic, yeah. So yeah, we know history, and we're here to talk about it. Basically, talk about
Sorry, I
the
had to
stuff
cough.
in history that's kind of glossed over, neglected, ignored in school. That's actually really interesting.
And
there's
not just specific events and people and things from history, but just why history in general is kind of seen as the boring subject that nobody needs to talk about. We feel like there's a need to change that reputation.
Yeah, definitely. History is like, if you really get into it, history is really fun and also really funny.
It's because the people just meme around.
Yeah, there's a lot of like memeing around in history, but no one actually knows about it or cares.
Yeah,
but
they do insane
explain it
things, and school doesn't teach it because time limitations, which makes
Yeah,
sense. But like,
definitely, that's definitely one of the main reasons why the school does not cover most of these fun events. It's because they're like very niche, and the school needs to get through a certain amount of curriculum, so they can claim to have taught their students. So they're just gonna cover the broad points and neglect the fun stuff, I think.
Yeah, they don't have time to immerse the students into like making a story out of it. They just teach it as dry facts.
And, yeah, I never thought of it as story, but that good framing.
Yeah,
it's
very good framing.
Good way to think of it.
People have led like interesting,
very newspaperish framing.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. No, but like you're right though. Like it really is a story. Each person has a story, and if it's told just through like this person did this, it's not very interesting. But if it's delved into more depth, it becomes very interesting. So let's give some examples. How about the biggest meme of the 19th century, John Brown? Let's talk about him.
Yes.
So this guy is quite a character, let's say. So I think in world history, in U.S. history, in APUSH, they talk about him for a good like 2 sentences in the textbook. Now I will give credit to my history teacher last year, Mr. Martinez, who was quite good at teaching history until he left. Well, it's true. He's no longer there. But like he was, yeah. He was very good at teaching history, and he actually talked about John Brown for more than 2 sentences. It still wasn't enough to do justice to the man, but it was certainly more than what was there in the book. And he's such an interesting figure because he's completely insane, like an absolute wacko.
I think I did an ORB on a book on this guy.
So did I.
Oh, did you?
Wow.
A lot of the ORB, but like I read the book.
I did it on your book.
Yeah, I gave you the book actually.
Yeah, did you? Yeah, you did. I think.
I did.
Don't remember.
Midnight Rising. It's about John Brown. So basically, the guy is a complete wacko. What he did was he was an anti-slavery zealot, and that sounds good initially because slavery bad, but he went out to Kansas in 1856, and there was this thing going on called Bleeding Kansas, where basically people from free states and slave states were just going over and slaughtering each other for sport in Kansas.
Pretty much. Good explanation.
That is what was happening.
And there was the city called Lawrence that got sacked by some like pro-slavery guys. By sacking, I mean like they invaded it and burned it and such things.
Yeah, and this is like
And then
not
this
an
guy,
official
John
war.
Brown, decides that he's just gonna go like take some sort of sword or hacksaw or whatever it was, just run to some like houses inhabited by pro-slavery people, none of whom owned slaves, and then chop them up and throw their remains into a river, the
Did
Potawatomi
he
Creek.
do that?
He led a colorful life, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, like he just went around, went to people's houses, said, "Are you pro-slave?" Not if you own slaves. Just are you
Exactly.
pro-slavery?
Yeah.
And note that this was like it's easy to go and like look into history and say like, imagine thinking slavery is good. They are horrible people. And it's easy to say that with a modern 21st century lens, but remember
Exactly.
that at this time, like half the country was pro-slavery. It was like a valid political opinion, and this guy went over and said, "Are you pro-slavery?" And then if they said yes,
I don't think he asked. I think he raided a pro-slavery area.
no, he asked. It's
Oh,
in
he
the book.
asked.
Like he's like, "Are you pro-slavery? Are you
Wow,
pro,
really?
Are you pro-South?" And if they said yes, he was like, "Please come outside, will you?" And then once they came outside, he like chopped them up with a sword.
So,
and
so
tossed
what
them into
happens when one neighbor sees the other neighbor getting chopped up and decides not to open the door or whatever?
This is Kansas, so neighbors can't see each other.
Fair
They're
point.
too far away.
This is early Kansas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas was, I mean, this is just when settlers are starting to move in, and barely
Yeah.
any slave
Mostly
owner has actually
uninhabited.
moved
Like
there.
if there was a
and-
house, it's gonna be like miles away from another house.
yeah.
And for the people that think it's inhabited by Native Americans, it like was, but also they did not live in concentrated areas to nearly the degree of like cities, Western settlement.
Also,
So
they got kicked out, so that too.
that too, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
also
that's a
the lack of
prerequisite, yeah.
concentration thing is the thing.
I mean, that's probably what led to them getting kicked out, because at the end of the day, you can't resist encroachment by a large settler population if you're a small
Yeah,
nomadic group.
I mean, you can.
It's difficult.
It's just very hard,
Yeah.
especially when they're more technologically advanced than you,
Yeah,
and they have like disease.
that too. Yes, guns, germs, and steel. does a
Disease,
great
yeah. There's
job.
this great book called Guns, Germs, and
Exactly.
Steel. Very good book.
Indeed.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to have Mr. Jackson as my 10th grade world history teacher for non-honors, actually. He like this. It's so strange. Like he somehow knew and loved the Guns, Germs, and Steel book, and he introduced a lot of the ideas from that book, and taught about how geography affects like the development of human civilization. But all this stuff is usually not taught. Like we're lucky enough to have teachers like Mr. Martinez and Mr. Jackson, but
Mr.
other
V for
than
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, V did this.
Big shout out to Mr. V for.
He showed a movie. I think he was absent for a few days, so he showed the
Yeah.
movie of like Jared Diamond pulling back a bow or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, big shout out to Mr. V for being one of the best teachers I've ever had. Just talking about history in a very approachable way and trying to make it interesting, at least as interesting as curriculum could allow, which is quite a good job on his part.
Yeah, it really doesn't restrict teachers.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you've got to cover some amount of stuff. You can't cover it to the depth that you want it to. Anyway. Yeah, so John Brown, he went and chopped up 5 people at Potawatomi Creek. Then, a couple years later, he decided it would be a brilliant play to stage a raid on the Federal Armory. Like, there's just a big building holding guns.
Because
There's more than one federal
he'd been
army,
like
just the one in Roxbury.
mulling over his plan like for years and years about giving arms to slaves and then helping them rebel violently and successfully.
He made
Yeah.
a constitution, actually. He didn't talk
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it
he-
that
he
much.
was so
like, he didn't
confident.
talk about it when he actually did the thing, but he had a provisional constitution.
Yeah.
He was so confident that this would work out that he went over to Canada, drafted a constitution for the new country that would be created once he like.
No.
led
He
the
was very
successful
adamant
revolt.
that this was not an overthrow of the government, but he was going to swap the constitution out.
I mean, it was an overthrow of the government for all.
Yeah, but
intents
in
and
his
purposes.
mind, somehow swapping the constitution wasn't an overthrow of the government.
Yeah, like he just wanted to topple the entire South and make it into his new country, and then.
No,
put his
that's
own
Aaron Burr.
constitution. So, what a guy. Yeah.
Aaron Burr is the one that did Aaron Burr did that
Oh, he tried to do that too, or like he wanted to do
after
that.
he shot Hamilton.
Yeah, and like popped him. Yeah.
Musical was very
I
good.
think John Brown just represents how you think of either it's just you're either abolitionist or you're completely pro-slavery, like you're a pro-slavery slave owner who owns hundreds of slaves. Like we only learn about the two ends of the spectrum, But
No, I
there's
don't
so
think
many
so. We were
people in
taught about
between.
pro-slavery
Not only are there
settlers.
multiple types of Southerners, the ones that actually own slaves, one that are just live like basically their lives are based on slavery, but they don't own slaves themselves. But then and even within the group of abolitionists, there's William Lloyd Garrison or other moderate, like some moderate abolitionists who maybe don't want to immediately outlaw slavery like in an instant. But then there's also characters like John Brown.
Also, yeah, I mean the difference between Brown and others is that like Garrison went around like publishing things, while Brown went around chopping people up with swords. Not really the same thing, and substantially worse on John Brown's part. So anyway, he went over to the Federal Armory in Harper's Ferry in Virginia at the time. Now it's in West Virginia. So he decided that would be a big play to just like break into the armory, take the guns, give them to slaves in the surrounding area, and then start a giant slave revolt that would then consume the whole South, and then he'd be proclaimed king and emperor and rule the world. He just forgot to tell any slaves that this was happening. Like he just didn't tell any of them.
No, he did tell them.
No, he didn't. He just didn't bother.
He told a couple of them, and he thought that they would like tell it to other people, but they thought he was crazy, and so
he
they
told like
didn't.
one or two after he like took the farmsteads from the people. But like
yeah, and
he didn't
they thought he
actually
was
go and
nuts,
send
and so they didn't
messengers
do
out
anything.
to tell the slaves en masse to group up.
It was a massive failure.
Yeah, I mean like incredible incompetence. Then the next morning he went.
Also, he shot a train conductor who was a freed slave.
Yeah, he
Pretty
shot
epic.
a train.
Pretty epic.
Got everyone pissed off at him. Then the next morning he went and got breakfast at the hotel while people were shooting at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Went and got breakfast at the hotel.
Yeah.
Not sure what the strategic reasoning behind that was.
It's so weird. Wait, like just the whole timeline of this entire raid on Harper's Ferry is one of the weirdest things you'll ever see. Like he walks in at night. Okay. There's a train that comes. For no reason at all, he shoots the train. Just alerting everyone that these people are doing bad things. Then he comes in and takes the arsenal or armory or whatever you want to call it, grabs the guns, sends like a couple guys to take a couple farms outside the city and grab the slaves from there, but nothing more. No telling any other slaves about what's going on because they're just gonna know somehow through telepathic instinct or something and then show up.
No, I mean his assumption was that they would spread the information to the other slaves, but they thought he was a nutcase.
Yeah, I mean he was a nutcase. They weren't wrong.
But they just went, this guy is mentally unstable.
Yeah.
Let's just forget this ever happened.
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah.
Because it blew up the next day.
Then he just kind of chilled the entire night, did nothing, and then in the morning he went and got breakfast, and then he got lunch while he was being shot at by the people of the town, and then the National Guard showed up, and at that point he was just completely doomed. Like Mr. Robert E. Lee showed up with the National Guard, who would
Yes,
a little bit more famous later. Yeah,
the premier Confederate general in the Civil War.
Yes, definitely the premier Confederate general, and then yeah, his revolt got crushed, and then he got martyred. I mean, that's probably the best use of him, honestly, for the North. He was such a
make him a symbol.
Yeah, like becoming a symbol was probably the North's best use of him because he was completely incompetent in actually doing anything.
Yeah. And we're talking about a person in U.S. history, in pretty modern U.S. history, who's still not known about that much. And when we go outside of the U.S. and when we go back more than just the 19th century, there's so many more people like this.
Yeah.
That we don't know.
Let's go very, very, very far back.
Mm-hmm.
How far back can we go? Let's go to ancient Greece.
Ancient Greece?
Do you guys know this guy Diogenes?
Oh, this guy, the guy who memed around so much.
Yeah, this guy was a nutcase.
Oh yeah. This
Total crazy.
He said some like incredible things to people. It was great.
He did some weird stuff. Like he ate his own poop. Or, no, not ate. I think he like smeared his own poop on himself or on someone else or something.
Not the highest point of his life, I'm sure.
He said some.
No. His point was that he's one of these philosopher guys, and he's like probably the most eccentric philosopher just in general.
Yeah, I think in the general average person's mind, they're just all blended together, all the Greek philosophers, as if they didn't have any individual lives.
Well, I mean, okay.
Even I personally don't know much.
I think you can throw Aristotle, Plato together because I don't know about either of them, and so they're both irrelevant.
Exactly.
Socrates gets to stay independent because I know a bit about him. Diogenes is just too nuts to be grouped with anyone else.
He is completely nuts. I remember this one thing where Alexander the Great visited him in Sumukh.
Yeah.
And he was like, I've heard of you. You're well-renowned. could I do anything for you? You know, could I help you out in any way? And then he responds, yeah, get out of my sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was blocking his sun and he
Yeah.
wanted the sunlight. And that's such a play. Imagine saying that to Alexander the Great on his path to conquering all of Persia.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah. Apparently he also walked around in the ceramic jar. Not kidding.
What? How does that even work?
Like he just went around, and then when he wanted to sleep, he just went into the ceramic jar and slept. Such a weird thing to do. With
Yeah,
this guy is definitely a meme. Oh yeah, you know this guy, big time American industrialist, philanthropist, Henry Clay Frick.
Frick, yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
Mr.
yes.
Frick.
Frick,
Yeah.
the Frick collection.
Yeah, Frick
With
Madison.
a
Not
name
Frick,
with a
anyone
name
named
so
Madison.
ridiculous it sounds made up.
Yes.
There's this guy named
Yeah.
Henry Clay Frick, and I cannot imagine how he got that name. It's got to be German in descent, but I don't remember.
Yeah, probably Frick. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to
I think there was a guy named Hans Frick. Wait, this is Googleable.
Hans
Frick disambiguation.
Frick.
No, of course,
Ambulation,
it says his dad was Swiss ancestry,
that
and
makes
mother
sense.
was
Close
German
enough.
ancestry.
Yeah, Swiss is
So
basically
yeah, of
German.
course, it was a European name.
Switzerland and Germany are the same thing. Changed my mind.
I mean, they speak the same language.
Yeah, therefore they are the same thing. That's how
Not
that
quite.
works.
I refuse to accept that Swiss German is a different language from regular German.
Yeah, they are the same thing.
It's the same language. They're just not the same language. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, so this guy.
Anyway,
H.C.
what were we
Frick,
saying?
He went around
Henry
with
Clay
his
Frick.
name being Henry Clay Frick, which is incredible for starters.
His
It makes
name
sense
was
because
Frick.
he really did frick over a lot of people's lives.
He did frick over.
He
a lot
killed
of
like
people.
2,200
He
actually.
did, yeah. Like
He did.
he built a giant dam on a
Dam,
river.
and then the dam
For,
was
like,
like shoddy or
Didn't
something.
take care of it.
So
Yeah, no, it's
I don't
like-
know exactly why, but it flooded and like 2,200
It was for
people
his
died.
country club, I think. Like he wanted a country
Yeah.
club on a
Yeah,
lake.
he had a
So he
thing.
made a dam to create the lake, and then the dam broke, and then he killed 2,200 people by like flooding a town below the dam.
Yeah.
I think this is actually the greatest amount of people that have died in a like power disaster.
I mean,
think
it
so,
was more of a natural disaster.
Like the hydroelectric dam, because
Not quite
coal has
natural,
like
seeing that
700.
H.C. Frick built the dam.
Not
yes,
that
of
many
course.
people died in Chernobyl, I think. Coal has like 789 or something like that. And this thing has like
I
2,200
wouldn't call
straight.
this a power-related disaster either, because I don't think his dam was
I think his
generating
dam was
power.
taking power.
Was it?
I have no clue.
I feel like his dam existed for the sole purpose of making his lake.
It was definitely the primary purpose, but I think Henry Clay Frick is the kind of guy who, like, if
Oh,
there's
yeah,
an
that's true.
opportunity to make money, he's gonna
Yeah,
do
that
it.
is
Also
true.
the
He is
same.
an
He was also the same guy who
Huh.
literally hired this mercenary company, this
Oh.
military force to put down a worker strike.
Oh yeah,
He
Oh,
did do
yeah.
this.
Oh yeah, he
Uh-huh.
hired the Pinkerton agents.
Yeah,
Pink-
the
Pinkerton
Pinkertons
agents,
are these
exactly.
guys.
Yeah.
Strike
The
breakers.
Pinkertons existed solely for like being private detectives, and then he hired them to go break a strike. What a meme. Yeah.
There's a book on the Johnstown flood that Mr. Martinez really wanted me to read.
Yeah,
by
and
this
this
guy,
is
David
credit. This is
Cullen,
again credit
I
to
didn't
like
read it.
our history teachers. I wouldn't have known much about the Johnson flood if we hadn't watched that one documentary about Carnegie and Henry Frick.
Ah yes.
Oh, in Q.
H.C. Frick.
No, and not in Mr. Martinez's class.
Did
We
we?
watched a documentary about Frick and
I don't even remember.
Carnegie
this
and
one.
Martinez.
It's possible though. It's possible.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was something about the industrial era in general.
Uh,
And
Wait, was the documentary memeing? I don't remember this
I don't think
documentary.
documentaries meme as a concept.
Yeah, it generally gives a historical depiction. But
No, I know, but many documentaries meme.
Like unintentionally, probably.
Yeah, unintentionally, obviously.
Yeah.
No, it was pretty
Yeah.
funny to just
Like
watch the
that
name.
clip of the Frick Carnegie documentary that you,
Frick
that
Carnegie.
you showed me from Q was memeing quite a lot.
The Carnegie. Frick him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he had
The
so much
joke
money.
is that
he did.
Andrew Carnegie hired Henry Clay Frick
He did
at some
yeah.
point.
He did, yeah. And then he fired him too.
Yeah, he did.
Quite a big joke. Q showed this in his class actually. So big credit to my not.
Why? Why did he show it in his class? I'm so confused.
It's because
Mr.
electricity.
Mr. Kewen is one of the most interesting
No, I know, but
teachers.
these guys weren't electricity guys.
He's a physics
Yeah, I
teacher.
know.
And
Like, and
yeah,
Carnegie
in
was a
ninth grade.
steel guy. Frick was a just stuff guy.
Yeah, I mean, they were mentioned in that episode for some reason, and then it pivoted over to JP Morgan and then electricity.
Okay, Morgan is arguably an electricity guy.
Morgan is definitely an electricity guy.
Yeah.
Like that was his main investment. So yeah,
You could also say he's bailing out the U.S. government.
he is a
guy,
bailing out the United States government.
which I think takes precedence, which is why I said arguably.
Yeah. Oh, I
Basically
mean,
saved
for
the
context, by
US.
the way, that was the Panic of 1903, I think.
I think.
No, 1907, yeah. 1907, where JP Morgan, like the man, bailed out the United States government when it was about to default, which is kind of a huge meme.
Yeah, it's
Let me
insane.
check this. I'm like 99% sure it was 07. Because, yeah, it was.
It was. Yeah.
I don't think there was a panic in 03 in general.
I don't think so. Yeah. There might have been. Wait.
I
No,
don't
I think I'm
so.
just messing up.
There was a panic in like 1897 or something, though.
There was, yeah. There's a
Not
panic
97,
every
but
10
it was
years in
something like
history.
that.
Yeah.
73, there we go.
But this kind of incident.
There's one in
would-
37, 73, and 07.
Yeah.
Nice.
But this kind of incident would prompt you to learn about how fragile the banking system might have been in that time period.
Yeah, this is why they made the Federal Reserve, so they don't
Yeah,
have to be
exactly.
bailed out by
The
individual
banking system in early, APUSH, the thing that consistently surprised me the most was the insanity of the banking system they had.
Yeah.
Where they just had nothing.
Yeah.
There was no
and
bank.
Jackson.
Each state had its own
the
bank.
Great.
Not even each state. Each bank had its own. notes.
Each bank had its own bank, like its own currency and whatever.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
completely unregulated, unstandardized.
Absolute insanity.
Yeah.
I don't even understand what they were going for there. With each bank minting its own currency, how do you do anything?
And it somehow got through. Like that was how it worked for like decades.
Yeah, until they realized that was an incredible.
Yeah.
Also, species circular, insane.
Yeah,
Insane.
crazy law.
Everything
crazy
had to
law.
be gold and silver, and if it
Yeah.
wasn't gold and silver, screw you. What?
Insane law. Absolutely.
Like you can't
insane
even
law.
think of we need to learn the concept of what fiat money is, as if that hasn't been a thing forever. It's a pretty new concept.
Actually,
which
yeah,
insane.
it is. It's pretty new. Yeah. I mean, Jackson just completely torpedoed Van Buren by passing species circular right before, ending office.
Yeah.
That's kind of sad. Imagine being Van Buren, stepping into office and immediately having a recession, knowing that there's nothing you can do because your last guy did it. Yeah.
I
That
feel
makes
like
a lot
I
more
feel like
sense.
U.S.
That's really
history
funny.
at least is so much more easier to tackle in 1 year than just the much more gigantic topic of world history. I mean, just
We've done
what
exclusively American.
general. I mean, we barely scratched the surface on anything in world history. We
did Diogenes for a bit, but we've done pretty much exclusively American.
Oh, like
in world history though in 10th grade.
I meant
the
in this
teachers
thing.
were forced to
No,
just
yeah.
select a bunch of random few topics from world history.
Can I say the 7th grade and 10th grade world history were it's just European history under a slightly different name.
Yeah, it really
I
is.
thought 10th
yeah.
grade. Okay, the thing with 10th grade world history is that it starts at the point where world history and European
true.
history are pretty
That's
much
true.
the same thing.
That is true.
7th grade world history doesn't really have an excuse for that, though.
Yeah.
Well,
10th
7th grade world history
like
was
fair
just
enough
bad.
because once Europeans started colonizing everything, then
Yeah.
European history and world history become the same thing.
I mean, at least it had a huge influence.
Not quite like the dynastic politics of
I mean,
Europe.
you can still talk about those countries' politics being influenced by the British, like.
But there isn't
by
much to
the
talk
colonial
about because at the end of the day, they're just colonies.
No, the thing is, at some point, once all the colonization happens, it's to talk about world history is going to be just very European heavy,
It is, yeah.
like pretty much without
Because
exception.
pretty much the whole world is European or European controlled or European influence to a massive degree. So, yeah.
Which is why I think AP World should really. So the thing AP World does, is I should have signed up for the test. I actually just forgot, but
Nice.
whatever.
I don't
I
know the
still can,
curriculum.
I
What's
think.
what's the curriculum?
Okay, whatever.
For AP
What?
World? Because
It's
I don't think we have
1200
a
and
class.
after.
Yeah, it goes
1200.
1200,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous.
So
for a
it
world
starts with the
history
reign
class.
of Chinggis Khan, the great Khan, emperor of all the
What?
Mongols.
That's so narrow.
It's actually
What?
insanity for a world history class. Because what College Board wants, I think, is that they want to have a continuous period of time.
Yeah.
But what I
yeah,
don't
so that they can
understand is
test
why
it
they want to have
better.
a continuous period of time. Like I don't know why it needs to be continuous.
I
Yeah,
agree.
they
with
could
you.
just have like different chapters with each. There being a time jump between chapters. Yeah.
Also, like it's kind of dumb to start at 1200. Like a lot of interesting things
Yeah,
happen.
there's
Yeah.
no sense in
Everything
calling a
from
world
like
history class
agriculture
world history
to
that starts
like
at
a
You're,
bunch
you're
of
skipping most of early human history. Plus, also you're skipping the entire classical era: Greece, Rome,
Yeah,
Persia,
you're skipping
India.
Greece,
yeah.
Rome, Mongols. Not quite,
You're
but
not skipping the Mongols. You are
yeah,
starting with the Mongols.
you were starting at the Mongols actually,
Yeah, which I think
but
is a
you're
bit too
skipping
low.
like everything pre-Mongols.
Yeah,
Not only do you skip specific civilizations and places or eras like the classical era for like Greeks and Romans, but just human history, like human development in general, you have to talk about it. How maybe it's a little bit of the biological standpoint, but also
No, I think there's a
agriculture
good
and
distinction between
what civilization
anthropology and
is.
history.
What?
I think there's a good distinction between anthropology and history. The distinction is when I start knowing stuff.
nice
Also, it's when
distinction.
things like start like
Of
I would
course.
say it's stuff that humans did versus stuff that humans are. So like the
Yeah.
spread of like the Clovis peoples in North America or whatever, I think that's pretty much anthropology. Whereas like the specific stuff they built and the way that they lived,
I think it's really just the mark of recorded history, like when they started like
yeah.
noting down their stuff.
When we exit the fog of ages,
Basically, is
as
when
is my favorite phrase.
it is a nice statement. I agree. Yeah. So, yeah. Also, another hard tangent, but we were talking about colonialism a second ago, and every European country is like mentioned as being colonialist. Not every, but like a lot of European countries are
Belarusian
mentioned as
I mean,
colonization.
colonialism in
Belarus,
Europe
right?
is
But the
generally
Russians, even though the
Oh, they
Russians did the
colonized in a very
same
strange
thing,
way.
yeah, no, the Russians also colonized probably more than any other European country except Britain.
Not
But
quite.
in
Yeah,
terms of
actually,
land
yes.
area,
yes, they
maybe.
did. They,
Yeah,
they
yeah, they
formed the
did.
largest empire after Britain in the world. Yet no
France
one
at
thinks of
its
Russia.
peak. No, yeah,
No,
no. It's
yeah, no.
Britain,
Russia
Mongols,
was
Russia,
definitely
I
second.
believe.
Yeah, second was Russia. No one thinks of Russia as colonizer, even though they were, and it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, no
nobody
wonder
thinks of
they're the
Russia as a
biggest.
colonizer
Yeah,
because the
no
things that they
wonder they're the
call
biggest country today. It's partially a result of that insane colonization.
yeah, it's because they took everything and they just didn't give most of it up.
That's
Yeah,
true.
Because the things that Russia
and didn't
colonized
break
was
up.
like Siberia and such things, and it's
They
Yeah,
did give
and
quite a
somehow
bit
it
of it
didn't
up
break
at
up.
the collapse of the
yeah,
Soviet
at the
Union.
collapse of the Soviet Union, a lot of that split into other countries, but
Yeah,
Of course.
I mean that was happening anyway.
not necessarily. That was just Gorbachev being bad at running the country. But
No, as in in my opinion, if Russia did not become the USSR, uh, it would have had to give up good amounts of Central Asia. Anyway,
it's impossible to predict that stuff.
yeah,
But
that's my prediction.
yeah, very interesting stuff. And I always find it very interesting still that Russia is not classified as a colonizer. But yeah, it's probably because they kept most of their conquests instead of
This and also they colonized like things that were next to them.
yeah, like things without large numbers of people in them, so they could just like turn the areas into
That
Russian.
and a lot of the subcultures, the little groups of people they colonized, that they didn't assimilate completely. So that like if you go to Russia today, it's a huge number of different ethnicities and
This is true.
cultures.
This is true.
Like there's if you look at the
In the East, they're
districts
mostly
and
their own
the
thing.
sub, like I don't know if they call them states or districts, but if you
I
look
don't
at the
know.
different districts in
Oh,
Russia,
Oblast.
it's so
Oblast.
diverse.
Oblast, yeah.
Oblast.
Oblast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. But also I will say, with the Russians, yeah, they didn't fully integrate all of the ethnic groups in Russia.
It's fine.
But they integrated it to a far superior degree than any other European power, which is why they like held the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
fine.
pretty incredible how in 1600-ish, they hit Sibir, which was on the Ural mountain range, and then by 1650 they had already reached the Sea of Okhotsk, which is the Pacific.
Which is the other side of the thing.
Yeah, like they crossed the entire Asian
Like the entirety
continent
of
in
Asia.
years. Incredible. Yeah, just absolutely incredible. Crossing the entire continent in 50 years and taking everything in the middle for themselves.
Yeah.
But I always think it's
Maybe
exact
not
same
everything in
logic
the
what
middle.
US
Like
did
they
in the
didn't
West.
conquer all of Asia. No Mongols.
They did
here,
it
but-
to
No,
less people for sure.
west to east. They went west to
Yeah,
east.
I know I'm moving.
Yeah.
They did go west to east, yeah. Like the US went east to west, they went west to east, and they just conquered everything in their path and integrated the population and also settled a large chunk of the area with their own people. Which is how they
European colonialism is either talked about more because it's a bit
More
later,
important.
maybe in the 1800s instead of the 1600s.
It's talked about more because it's way more important.
It's more influential.
quite important.
Yeah.
Like it's like
It
the
affected like
Russian
most of the
thing
world. Yeah.
really only affects Siberia. And there's not a lot of people living in Siberia.
Also, this is an American curriculum.
That too.
That too.
That too.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was any topic in any of your history classes that could have been skipped, and like these topics could have been talked about?
No, I don't think
Euro
so.
history? A lot of the stuff they talked about in European history was useless in my opinion.
Mm.
We did European history?
No, I mean like in world history, the stuff they talked about in regards to Europe.
10th, 7th, 8th. Which one?
Wait, actually no, I'm thinking of U.S. history. In U.S. history, the stuff they talked about at the start with like King James and King George.
It really was irrelevant.
I agree, actually.
That
That
was
stuff
so
was
stupid.
good.
Like,
I'm a big fan of the British stuff in
just
the US history.
covered the Protestant Reformation, and then you could have had more time to talk about characters like John Brown.
Exactly.
They didn't. Pretty much all they said about the Protestant Reformation is that it happened.
Yeah, but they talk a lot about
also
the
had
British
this whole thing
nobility
about-
and kings and queens, which like no one cares.
Yeah.
They talked about the whole like, Charles is being replaced with the Jameses,
And the English Civil War and everything.
Also the
which matters
Glorious
because it's the
Revolution.
whole Catholic Anglican thing.
Yeah, also the
I
Glorious
don't know if they were
Revolution
Anglican at this point,
and,
actually.
Willem der Orange showing up from the Netherlands.
Yeah, Glorious Revolution.
Yes.
I mean, Henry VIII has to be mentioned, the guy who...
Bloodless revolutions. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There were a few of these.
And the October Revolution was bloodless, right? And
Which one was the October Revolution?
the one where they like toppled. Was that the December? I keep forgetting, dude.
December.
they used the months from-
December failed. I'm pretty sure.
They didn't use the months from the Gregorian calendar or something.
Yeah, they
right?
used the Russian ones, the Julian calendar.
No, the October Revolution happened in October, and December Revolution happened in December.
Pretty sure it didn't.
October Revolution definitely happened in October.
It might have actually happened in a different month.
I have the Wikipedia page open. It happened. When did it happen? 25 October.
Okay, never mind. It did actually. No.
Wait, no. By the old system.
Exactly.
By the old date
Yeah,
style,
November
it was 25.
7th, November 8th.
So
It
it
happened in
was
November.
their October.
It is their October.
We
It happened in
literally
November.
learned about this. I think in the U.S. history we might have gotten like references to the October and like Soviet revolutions, but we barely.
No,
like,
the thing is the date system changed so much. Like they had a different calendar set up in Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Julian calendar. I think.
So they were like a couple days off or something.
Yeah. I mean, they
Which
used the
one was
Julian
this?
calendar. Yeah. I mean, it was just a worse calendar, and they used it.
Yeah,
So-
I mean it's just less accurate.
Yeah.
Interesting how it.
Okay, this was the
literally-
anti-Kerensky revolution. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened was that I think the white, I don't remember the names of this stuff, but Kerensky revolved against the Romanov dynasty, like the monarchs
Imagine
of
saying
Russia.
revolved instead of revolted.
Oh, did I say revolved?
Yeah.
Sure. Kerensky spun around the Romanov dynasty,
Uh-huh.
like the monarchs, threw them out. And then the Soviet guys, so like Lenin and such people,
Bolsheviks.
revolved around Kerensky and then threw
Mhm.
him out.
Yeah. Lenin's entrance into Finland Station was pretty epic, actually, in Leningrad.
Finland?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
shouldn't rename it. Have
Oh,
they
it's part
renamed
of
it yet?
Russia.
Yeah. So there's a station. There's a station in St. Petersburg called
Yeah.
Finland Station.
Oh,
No idea why it's called that because it's
Wow.
not in Finland.
Have they renamed it yet?
Confused.
No, they haven't. And like Lenin just showed Lenin's whole story is such a big meme. It's actually great. He was living in Switzerland. Then the German government decided that hey, like Russia looks ripe for revolt. Let's send someone who can make them revolt. Oh, what about Lenin? And then they took this guy, put him on a cattle car, sent him through Germany, and then through Sweden, and then through Finland, and then like across the Russian border. He showed up in Finland Station in St. Petersburg. He walked out. He declared the dictatorship of the proletariat. The masses rose, and Russia was toppled. Job well done to the German government.
Wow.
Easy.
It's generally not how it's portrayed, though, isn't it?
I mean, like he wasn't quite.
Hey,
It's
Yeah.
more complicated than that.
but like
No, of
it's a
course,
good
no.
overview.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
it works so perfectly for the Germans, though. It was incredible.
It's not portrayed like that because that's like it's a meme overtake.
It is a meme overtake, but like
Obviously like he had written some stuff before
Yeah,
and he was
like,
an
he was
influential
well-known.
guy in Russia and he had trumped up popular support, but this is
Of
how he
course.
took power.
You
They
can't
sent
just
him
walk
on a
in.
train.
yeah. So in general, yeah, history is really interesting. Like we
Are
just
we
kind
out of time?
we just kind of talked for like 30, 40 minutes, and just random meme people just showed up.
Wait, are we out
of
of time?
I think we are. Yeah, we should probably.
Are
end
we?
this. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've gotten a good talk.
40
Yeah,
minutes. That's
as
funny.
what's-
So our notes were just ideas, not actually a plan to follow. Was
Mhm.
John Brown H.C. Frick work, then South American History Bolivar, Rastafari Makanan in Morocco, European colonism in Russia, which we actually covered, Southeast Asia prior to colonialism, and then Salvador Allende's gold plated.
Oh yeah, this is a meme. Yeah, we like. See, that's
no
the thing.
time, no time. But he shot himself with a
Yeah,
gold plated.
each of these stories are so like.
Yeah,
it's
there's so much stuff to
interesting.
talk about, and like we started talking, and we just went sidetracked and talking about other meme people.
Plus, we didn't even go back that many centuries.
Yeah, this is all like 2 centuries.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we
Very
were all like, we
fascinating.
did US for half the time, which is interesting because I hate US.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like, there's a lot of material. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Tons of material. Like HC Frick is just highest quality material.
Yeah, and this is why like everyone who's taking classes like world history should keep in mind that. So it's a very narrow world history class. It's not going to be. It's not. You're not going to get the whole picture, and there's going to be plenty other stories.
If you have
You're
V,
gonna want
it's
to
a
learn
good
after.
world history class. It's not narrow if you have V. I can guarantee. It's a
Yeah,
bit
if you're
too broad,
lucky
actually,
to get
but
teachers
whatever.
like Mr. V, then yeah. But generally speaking,
Actually, I think it's too broad. It doesn't get into the minutia of the insanity.
true. Yeah, and it just scratches the surface. Yeah.
Anyway, time.
Exactly. At any rate, yeah. So we're pretty much done with this, but
Thanks
Yeah.
for listening to another
Another-
exciting episode of The Voice
indeed,
Yes, sir.
good
with our
podcast.
voices.
Indeed.
I've been me. The other people have been themselves.
This is History Bowl signing off.
Yeah,
Is it?
good night.
Okay.